Jam-packed up in here for tonight's quadruple feature. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Weekly Narrative. We got Holly and Osis in the chat. Today's a very special episode. Delaney, say hi from remote.
What's up, everybody?
Delaney is remote today because we're doing stereo as well at the same time right now. So if you want to join us on the stereo side, where you can leave like voice comments and stuff, instructions to do so are in the chat in the description below. You gotta download the app on your phone, and then you can just follow me, and then I think you can join the show that I'm hosting right now. We've already got a couple listeners over there so far, but we've got an excellent show for you today. Aside from the technical achievements that we're doing here, I mean, we're just skyrocketing into the future at a blistering pace. Let me pull up the actual show notes here. As you can see from the title, we're going to be talking about some statistics regarding the transgender population. We've got some new studies out on that. We've got a pretty hilarious poll that just came out about the top issues that both parties see in current events. What does the left think of the top 10 issues? What do the right think of the top 10 issues?
Okay.
So that's going to be very telling. We're going to get a lot of information out of that. We're going to be talking about some racial equity madness because, it's one of our go-to topics here on the Weekly Narrative Alt-Centrist
We always got
podcast.
to bring up race.
Yep, we got a couple stories regarding that, and one regarding a school and one regarding criminal justice that are both kind of entertaining but also horrifying at the same time. And, excuse me, two things actually happened between me writing the show notes and creating the event that I had to throw on this show, so we're going to get extra topics. We're going to start out the segment today talking about corporations fighting back, because we've had stories in the last 2 or 3 weeks. We've had a lot of stories of corporations, Coca-Cola and Disney and whatnot, going woke. But now we've got a couple instances of corporations fighting back with Hyatt and Trader Joe's. Recent developments that just literally happened just in the last few hours today. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Let's blast that intro and let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen, put on your helmets and chin straps, and welcome to the Weekly Narrative. Little technical things that we got to work out here. I have to manage Delaney's audio, who is remote today, joining us on stereo. If you guys want to join on stereo, instructions are in the description below. We are back, and let's jump straight into it with our first story of the day: corporations fighting back. And Delaney, let me know if anything's happening in the stereo side of things, because I can't really watch 18 windows at the same time.
It's okay. I got you on stereo.
You
I'm
be my-
looking to see who's coming in and listening and stuff. So
Perfect. All right, we're jumping into this. This is a tweet thread from Twitter, because that's where tweets are made, from Ben Bonima. Trader Joe's just fired me for sending this letter to the CEO, saying that I don't share the company's values. I guess advocating for a safer workplace isn't a company value. So what happened here is, if you're on the youtube.com/weekly narrative live stream, you can see the video of this. Otherwise, you're listening on the podcast or on stereo. An employee of Trader Joe's sent in a big letter to the leadership of Trader Joe's regarding COVID and safety at the store and stuff like that. And he had all these suggestions. It's a really well worded letter. And
I'm looking at the letter right now, and it's a pretty impressive looking letter.
No, I first saw this and I thought, okay, yeah, this looks like it's
Looks pretty legit.
It's not what you'd expect a rabid, raving, foaming at the mouth leftist to write, and I don't even know if this guy's a leftist or what. But his
Well, the sheer
suggestions,
fact that he's like bringing up legal stuff and not, doing ad hominems automatically. It's like, okay, this isn't so bad.
His suggestions include improve filtration, and then he gives like technical details of what kind of filters they're using. He says increase our air change per hour, HVAC type stuff, limit store capacity based on CO2 levels. Like this guy's some kind of a scientist working with air, but he's just a cashier at Trader Joe's. Not allowing anyone inside the store without a mask. And then the last one, which I think was where he went wrong here, is adopt a 3 strikes policy when it comes to removing uncooperative people from our stores. And he says, I was recently shouted and sworn at by a customer who would not wear his mask above his nose, despite, mates already asking him to
I think
do
it's
so.
his mates.
He was allowed to finish his
Is that what
shopping and check out.
mates? I guess is that what they call like Trader Joe's employees? I'm guessing.
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm not on the in with Trader Joe's very much. So
Yeah, MA and Chad brings up a great point. They already tried to cancel Trader Joe's once before. So Trader Joe's, despite being known for kind of like a bohemian, organic type place, but they have dealt with this before. And this is their response to that guy's letter.
yeah, well,
Termination.
I personally love Trader Joe's food. So
Your employment, which is at will, may be canceled without cause or notice. In a recent email, you suggested adopting a 3-strike policy against customers and a policy enforcing the same accommodation for every customer with a medical condition that precludes them from wearing a mask. Whoa, base Trader Joe's. These suggestions are not in line with our core values. In addition, you state that Trader Joe is not, quote, showing up for us without adopting your policies. It is clear that you do not understand our values. As a result, we are no longer comfortable having you work for Trader Joe's.
good
Boom.
job, Trader Joe's.
Damn.
Round of applause for them. Like
Well,
it's pretty based of them.
because I can't think of any other instances of corporations really fighting back against any of the mask stuff. Anytime somebody gives you a story about masks, there's always a sob story apology coming from the companies, and we'll do better next time and stuff like that. Trader Joe's is just straight up like, look, do 3 strikes? No, we're not doing no 3
Yeah,
strikes.
you went too far with that 3 strikes stuff because the people that come to the store, they're the ones that pay the bills. So if you put a 3 strikes rule on them and they can't come back, that's no money for you. So
Oh, he's from New York City,
you're
by the
making,
way. People in chat were asking if he was from Australia. It says New York City here.
yeah, it's New York City.
His last name is Bain too. Oh wait, no, Bain? No, yes. Oh no. He's writing to a guy named Mr. Bain. Okay. Anyway, so it's a little refreshing to see that, whereas we're used to seeing the Coca-Colas and the Oreos coming out and saying trans lives matter or whatever the hell they said, stuff like that. You may or may not know this, but CPAC was recently started, and they were using Hyatt Hotel to host their event. CPAC is the conservative where all the Republicans gather
Backing former
together
President
and do their cheer, rah, rah, whatever they do there. I don't even know what they do,
Their
to be
rally.
honest.
They're like, oh yeah, we're Republican. Yeah.
By the way, guys, let me know how Delaney's audio is. I can crank it up or down depending on the balance here. So
Can y'all hear me?
within the span of one day, and this morning, there was a hashtag like cancel Hyatt or something like that, where basically the leftists and the mutants were crying about the fact that Hyatt was hosting CPAC, and not just the hosting CPAC, that wasn't enough to trigger them. It was the fact that they were using a stage, a physical stage where you walk out and you give speeches, shaped like a Nordic rune that was used by Nazi Germany.
Wow.
Did you see that? It's basically a square with like 2 right angles coming off the back of it. Somebody saw a picture of the stage and then took it upon themselves to start this hashtag boycott Hyatt. And then, if you don't cancel this event, I'm never coming back to your that was all over Twitter today.
Wow.
But so,
Stalking Horse says that it sounds like there's 2 of me.
really?
Yes, that's what he says. Is
Oh.
that how
Oh,
is that how I'm
Stalking
sounding
Horse
to everybody else too?
I don't know. MA says your audio's perfect. I haven't had any other complaints in chat
Okay.
either.
Yeah. Well, Maybe it's just you stalking horse.
Is she? If he's listening to the stereo, then there is two of her.
Mm.
So I was in suspense because we were in this awesome time period where this crazy thing is starting to hashtag, and we all know what happens when the hashtags start with the company brand, right? Like
Yep.
Disney. This is exactly how Gina Carano got fired. Same shit. But this time Hyatt was like, no, 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 we're not doing that.
Mm.
Hyatt's response is this: Hyatt's most fundamental responsibility is to provide a safe and inclusive environment for all of our colleagues, guests, and customers. Our commitment to this principle is informed by our purpose as a company to care for people so they can be their best. This is the best part because they completely throw the propaganda right back in their own faces. Listen to this. We take pride in operating a highly inclusive environment, and we believe that the facilitation of gatherings is a central element of what we do as a hospitality company. It gets better. It gets better. There's one more. There's one.
Okay.
So they key on the inclusive keyword there, because that's what everyone on the left loves to say is, oh, you got to be inclusive, while simultaneously calling for Hyatt to not host someone that they don't like at their venues, which is very strange. Not sure how you can hold both of those ideas in your head at the same time, but they
It's
say,
2021, Jeremy. People are crazy, okay?
yeah, well, our own values support a culture that is characterized by empathy, respect, and diversity of opinions and backgrounds.
Oh,
So thank you,
okay.
Hyatt. I'm going to do a golf clap for Hyatt on that one because this HR department is not taken over by mutants yet. This is an HR department that took a stand because they're going to get some flack for this. Or maybe they just
Mm.
realized at a certain point all this cultural boycotting stuff is basically just at a certain point you got to call the bluff, right? Every tweet doesn't have to be responded to like it's a catastrophic disaster. Even if you're trending,
Yeah.
the Hyatt at boycott Hyatt's trending. Hyatt was just bitch slapped it, shot it down, and it's taken care of. There's going to be some leftists to cry about it and say, "I'm never going to Hyatt again," but I don't think their business is going to make much of a dent in Hyatt's bottom line.
It's yeah, it's not because doesn't Hyatt also own a bunch of other different hotel brands as well?
Hyatt owns a
So even if
ton
you
of
don't,
stuff. Yeah,
yeah, so even if you're not staying at a Hyatt, you're probably going to eventually stay in a hotel that's owned by Hyatt. So that whole mindset is just ridiculous.
that's why I can never get on board with the corporate boycotts because what people don't realize is that all these companies are owned by giant parent companies that own many other companies.
Mm-hmm.
So take the Gillette one for example, right? Everyone was like, "Oh God, boycott Gillette! Don't ever give them any money ever again. I'm never buying razors from Gillette again." And then what do? They go buy razors from Dollar Shave Club, who is also owned by Procter and Gamble. It's the same company.
Yep.
Like, if you really want to actually do the boycotting stuff effectively, and you don't want to be giving out money to those evil corporations, then you have to really do a lot of work and research to figure out when you go into the store who's owned by who. Where's the money actually going? So
Mm-hmm.
I don't do any of that boycotting shit.
Me
What's
neither. It just makes me want to like go out and buy those boycotted products and those boycotted brands even more. So good job.
what's up, Tardo? We got Tardo McGee following us on Stereo. What's up? Shout out to Tardo.
Yep.
So it should be a refreshing breeze for you guys there to see these two corporations fighting back. And I'll reiterate the point that I've made the whole time about corporations and the woke stuff is that I still think that it's about the bottom line for them. It's about the dollar. They're not going
Mm-hmm.
to capitulate to the woke mob just because it's woke. They're doing an assessment, whatever they do before they write these statements and come out and say, "Hey, screw you." They do an assessment internally and they figure out, is this gonna is this gonna hurt us? Is this gonna be like what are we gonna do here? What's the bottom line gonna look like? And I think that calculation is still happening. It's not just a default to, yeah, let's capitulate to the mob. So there's a little bit of a glimmer of hope.
I mean, I have a little bit of hope, especially if it's a company as big as Hyatt.
Yeah, Osis does bring up a good point though. They bitched out on masks still. They were throwing people out for not wearing masks, which
They did bitch out on masks, but whatever.
I think Nobody, they
It was
can't,
for
they
optics.
can't be perfect. Yeah,
Hmm.
see, there you go. Now that's a great point. That's for optics. There was the line. That was the line that they drew as a corporation. They decided we want to enforce the masks because, we want to have that optic of enforcing the masks, but yet people are crying about this, Nordic rune shaped stage used by CPAC. We don't care about that. So their line was somewhere in the middle, which is it's interesting to see happen in real time.
Yeah, and yeah, every company's going to do things differently, so it's just interesting to see how everybody's handling everything. So,
Speaking of companies doing things differently, you guys saw what Oreo tweeted? It's been going around. Oh,
mm,
I forgot to tribute to my Coca Cola here. Listen,
got to get that woke Coke.
I love my Coca Cola. Oreo tweeted
Mm.
a 3-word tweet. You guys see this one? It's really good. They tweeted, "Trans people exist." Yep, that's it.
Yeah, because Oreo has so much to do with trans people.
Well, when I look at the social media company of the cookies that I purchase, I want to see opinions about incredibly small populations of sexual deviant people. That's what I want to see.
Mm-hmm.
When I say sexual deviant, I just mean statistically speaking, they are. I think. Well, we'll get into the statistics because we got those up next. Less than, I think they're roughly 0.5% of the population. And that's identifying as 0.5%
Mm-hmm.
of the population. It's probably actually a lot lower than that because the transgender trend and all that.
Mm-hmm. All these kids coming out as transgender and shit.
Yeah, so sorry to give you guys whiplash and go straight from 2 stories of corporations who are doing the right thing and not capitulating straight back to an HR. This is a good comparison for you. Oreos or Nabisco, whoever owns Oreo, their HR department just completely taken over by obese, nose ring, purple hairs, and then Hyatt and Trader Joe's, they're actually businessmen. They want to make money. So that's what the
Mm-hmm.
difference looked like. And the reason why the Oreo tweet was so hilarious, and I'm never gonna stop laughing about it. I don't hate it. I love it because it proves that capitalism is so genius that it can make trans people who likely largely affiliate with leftism and anti-capitalism, it can make them love being used as marketing tools.
Mm-hmm.
That is so good. I'm never going to stop. I mean, trans people see that and like, yeah, Oreo, massive international corporations, yeah. And then they turn around and
Gonna
they,
go. They're gonna go out and buy like all the Oreos and get even fatter and more disgusting, so
yeah.
that way they can really exist.
Dari says in chat, oh no, are they going to remove the white filler? Yes, no more vanilla Oreos. Everything is going to be chocolate from now on.
Chocolate on chocolate on chocolate, as it should be.
Masks are nothing but symbolic. Have you guys had to deal with double maskers lately? Delaney and I went out last night. We encountered double maskers in person. It was terrifying.
It was pretty
I
fascinating
don't
to
even know
watch.
how she could breathe, and it was very hard to
Yeah.
communicate with her.
Mm-hmm.
Dari also
It's
brings
fun though.
another point. Mr. Potato Head is now just Potato Head. What?
I
So,
heard about
so what
that.
happens to Transformers?
Oh,
Well, you know what? On a serious note, Delaney and I were also talking about this last night. What happens? Have you guys thought about this? And also, once you hear this, you're going to ask yourself why you'd never heard anything or anyone ask about this before. What happens in all of those languages across the world that are highly gendered, like Spanish, German, Japanese? What happens to all those
French.
language? Yeah, what happens to those when the woke mob comes for the language? When you can't even use words that are gendered one way or the other. And nobody's brought that up yet. I know we've gotten as far as saying Latinx. We replaced the O with the
Mm.
X, but that's not specific just to the word Latino. That goes for every single Spanish word that either ends in an O or ends in an A or whatever. Anything that's gendered, they gotta put an X everywhere. So they
Yeah. So instead of calling your cousin primo or prima, you just call him premix or premix.
primps. Jesus Christ.
Primps.
Every O and every A in the entire Spanish language is just going to be replaced by an X. You're just going to be like, That's what Spanish is going to sound like in 10 years. Just X's every other letter. Anyway, speaking of transgender statistics, let's jump into some brand new Gallup poll results that just came out. Delaney, this one's just for you because, this is your community, and
Yep.
we're going to hold you accountable
Unfortunately.
for these numbers. For those who don't know, Delaney is the L. She is the L of the LGBT.
I'm the big L. Well, not so big.
Is there a little L?
Well, not gargantuan L, just a decent sized L.
All right. This is from news.gallup.com. Straight from Gallup, okay? These are the people that do the polls. This isn't like an editorialized. Well, okay, there is going to be some editorialization in here, but for the most part, it's just poll data from February 24th. Washington, D.C. Gallup's latest update on lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender identification finds, drumroll, 5.6% of U.S. adults identifying as LGBT. The current estimate is up from 4.5 in Gallup's previous update, based on 2017 data.
Okay, so there's an increase, a slight.
Yeah, 1.1% increase over 3 years, which is
So we must fold all of the gays out there, gays and lesbians.
You're slowly gaining dominance, but I would I would question what percentage of that are actual, quote unquote actual, LGBTs, and not just people playing the part, because as you know better than anybody here, a lot of people like to play the part.
Oh yeah.
And just for reference, we're looking at a chart here. If you're not looking at the video, the number in 2012 was 3.5%. So we've gone from 3.5% in 2012 to 4.5 in 2017, and then 5.6 in 2020. So it's roughly a 1 percentage point increase every 3 to 4 years. 86.7% of Americans say they are heterosexual or straight, and 7.6% do not answer the question about their orientation. So we can assume probably roughly 95% are straight. Gallup's 2017 data had roughly 5% no opinion on responses. This is a sample size 15,000 here out of... Now, I don't know about you guys, but every time I get asked one of these that's not on like a bank statement or I'm signing up for a serious account somewhere, I just bullshit the whole thing. I find the weirdest answer that I can possibly give, and that's what I tell them. So I don't know what the accuracy...
You're screwing up their polls, Jeremy.
If I got a Gallup poll, I would definitely tell them that I'm like a wheelchair-bound, mentally retarded tranny.
Oh yeah, with missing limbs.
And so you got guys doing that for sure, but there's also, again, the question here, and this is why I'm bringing this up. What is the reason for the increase, right? So I know what leftists would say, and I'll make their argument, but I'm curious, since you are our local LGBT representative, Delaney, why do you think the numbers are increasing?
I personally think that they're increasing because we've been indoctrinating our children with the ideas of LGBT and gayness and teaching them at a really young age. So then when they get to become adults and they're getting polled about these things, of course they're going to be like, oh yeah, I'm bisexual, or I'm a lesbian, or I'm a tranny. So that's just my personal thing. And also maybe people are feeling more comfortable about talking about their sexuality and being more open to being like, yeah, I'm a lesbian. Whereas like 60 years ago, people weren't open about that. They just be like, oh yeah, I'm totally straight, but not really be straight. It might be a combination of those things to me.
Yeah. So you think there's a combination of kind of like a societal trend, if you will, of, obviously we have so many stories we talked about this stuff being talked about in schools and teachers pumping it onto kids and Cartoon Network pumping it onto kids, and everything that these kids consume is all about trans this, trans that, LGBT, whatever.
Well, almost every like TV show on Netflix and Hulu and even on like the mainstream, like it has gay representation in there. So
Tardo McGee says it's the soy
it.
milk. I think that's also a potential explanation there. But here's the point. So,
Soy milk.
you gave the right answer, Delaney, because I don't. now I can't tell. I can't say if if yes it was because of the influence from the teachers in society, or yes because they're more comfortable. But your answer was correct simply because you offered multiple explanations. Now the left, their argument, what they do, and what I've seen, and what they will stick to is just the single variable explanation that it's all about civil rights. The civil rights have increased, so of course LGBT people are going to come out. That's how they would explain this because they don't ever want
Mm,
to acknowledge, like you did, not that it's the main reason, but that it is definitely a significant variable that these kids are being taught this stuff in school and in media and social media, and it's trendy to some degree.
yeah, it's very trendy.
There's
Well, I mean, so many kids are like coming out as transgender nowadays because simply because they think, like little girls especially, they think, oh, I like to wear boy clothes, or I like to not wear girl clothes, so I must be transgender. And the parents aren't smart enough to be like, no, maybe you're just a girl that likes to, be a tomboy. Like, what's wrong with that? Instead of like parents embracing the fact that their kids might be gay or a lesbian, it's easier for them to accept that their kid is transgender. So I think that that has a lot to do with it as well.
I saw my son look at the color pink for 2 seconds. I think he's a girl. All right, son, let's
Yeah, it's like my son
buy you
my
some new
son wants to
clothes.
play with Barbies instead of Transformers, and all of a sudden it's like my son's a transgender. It's like, no, maybe your son is just like 4 years old and will just play with whatever he has in front of him.
Right. I mean, we can both acknowledge that there's a lot of absurdity there, but the point here is that anytime you see somebody give you a single variable explanation for something, that means that they know that they're hiding something. They don't want to acknowledge the
Hmm.
possibility of other variables. And I'm not even saying that the only other variable is the propensity for this stuff to be taught in schools and media and whatnot. There's other variables involved too. Like Tardo McGee said, they're drinking soy milk. These people probably have just naturally lower testosterone levels. So there's a biological aspect of it too. There's probably 100 variables. And the fact that they only want to explain it with one, civil rights, LGBT civil rights, shows you and is clear proof, blatant proof that they know they're hiding something.
Hmm. They're totally hiding something. There's a total agenda to this.
And there's the reason why well, we know that they're afraid to talk about it because Abigail Schreier just recently came out with that book, Irreversible Damage. You remember that? Did you see that book?
Hmm. Yeah.
She talked about, so this woman came out about doing all these studies on transgender people who thought they were trans, and then they gone through like the transitions and stuff, and then they regretted it afterwards. And they said, "Yo, yeah, I wasn't actually trans, but my doctors and everybody just pushed me through, and there was no real like testing to make sure I was actually trans." And they had irreversible damage, which is why it's the title of the book is Irreversible Damage done to them.
Hmm.
So they don't want nobody in the trans community wants to talk about those people. They're just damaged goods. Leave them to the side, artifacts of an imperfect system or whatever they want to call it. They don't want to acknowledge that.
Yeah, we don't want to acknowledge the fact that we've sterilized a small group of people that shouldn't have been sterilized if they had just been had received the correct guidance through what they were feeling at that time. They just, instead of like acknowledge, like instead of saying what you're feeling is just a feeling and it can change, they were like, oh, you're feeling this, okay, well then let's just go full throttle into that victimhood mindset. And Ma in the chat brings up a good point. It says this. She says the social credit only comes for trans moms. It's these moms want in
Yeah,
on it too. They
that
want
no, that is a
their.
big. Yeah, the moms trying to get attention and credit is a huge part of it. That might be the main factor involved, actually, as far as the
Hmm.
family influence is concerned with the whole trans stuff. Absolutely. But then Osis brings up a great point in chat. We've heard about this before too. And this is what she talks about in that book, Irreversible Damage, the rapid onset gender dysphoria, where when these girls get access to social media and they get to the age where they are now trying to vie for social status between other women or girls, like at 13 or whatever, there's all of a sudden an
Hmm.
explosion of friend groups, girls that are close to each other, all of a sudden becoming trans out of nowhere because one of their friends did it. So when one does it, then the rest of their friends go for it as well. Because what happens when you come out as trans? You get, oh, we love you. Oh, we support you. And you share a
You're
picture of
so brave.
yeah, you share a picture of yourself on Twitter or Instagram, and then you get a bunch of likes and follows or whatever. You get a lot of, there's an incentive.
Everybody like seeps into the delusion, and they start calling them by the name that they want and all that stuff. They
Hmm.
soak up that delusion, that delusional state, and they're like, yeah, let's feed into it, instead of going, no, maybe you're not transgender, maybe you just have a different fashion sense, different fashion sense than a normal girl, and that's okay too. Like, why are we feeding into the delusion instead of like snapping people out of it and going, it's a feeling, it's not proof, it's not irrefutable evidence that uh you are transgender, because there might be people out there that are actually trans, but there's not enough science to back it at this point. But it's such a new concept.
That's yeah. I want to jump back over to the statistics here since I'm already sharing my screen. We got 2 point. Let's see. So of all U.S. adults, 0.6% identify as transgender now. So we were talking about this
Mm.
previously. We knew it was under 1%. We're up to 0.6% now. And I would venture a guess that probably at least half of that is simply due to the trender phenomenon that we just talked about, where
Hmm.
these kids go and they see their friend do it, and they say, "Oh, I want all the attention and love that they got to," so they do it. And then
Well, I also think, what remember last night I was telling you, or the other night I was telling you about, how there's a lot of like these lame ass, like, lame ass white people out there that don't get any oppression points whatsoever,
mhm.
on the because there's that totem pole, that hierarchy of oppression
Oh,
that
they're
all of
starving for
the
attention.
minority communities have.
Yep.
And these people don't can't fit into that because they're white, and they're, quote unquote privileged, so they have to kind of sneak in to that victim totem pole through the LGBT umbrella. So they're like, oh
Mm,
well, I'm a white chick, but I'm a bisexual white chick, so feel bad for
nice.
me
Yeah,
because I'm bisexual.
that's true.
It's it's people that want to be in that victim mindset, and they're just like using the gay flag and the gay agenda to get in on it.
Yeah,
And
'cause
I'm
it's not
just,
like there's a
yeah.
test or a certification or anything you got to do to get, like you don't get certified as a bisexual or whatever. So you could just say it.
Hmm.
There's no test to see if you're
Well,
actually transgender. You could just say it, and then
mhm.
hey, here's a
Well, yeah.
chop
We
your
also
whatever
have like
off.
120. We also have 120 different genders too. So you can just make up one and become a victim through just making up something.
Yeah, if you want to be a vapo gender.
Yeah, be a vapo gender.
This might shed some light on more on what we're dealing with here. So this is another set of data based on generation. So what would you think, Delaney, without looking at it? What would you think the trend would be as the newer generations are becoming more or less LGBT?
More.
Of course, yes. I think we all already knew that for the most part. So Gen Z, well, let me start from the back. Traditionalists born before 1946, LGBT percentage 1.3. Baby
Hmm.
boomers from 1946 to 64, 2.02%. Gen X from
Hmm.
1965 to 1980, 3.8. So it's about, it's creeping up. It's
It's
creeping
a
up.
it's a it's a creeping up, yeah.
Millennials from 1981 to 1996, that's me and you.
Hmm.
9.1%, massive jump from Gen X
Yeah,
to millennials.
massive,
What
massive
happened there?
jump.
What happened there? Over
Uh,
almost
that
triple.
that that was I was gonna say, wasn't that like during like the Harvey Milk time? Well, it was Harvey Milk was before, but this was like the aftermath of like the gay civil rights movement during the 60s and the
It's all
70s.
those hippie parents raising their kids
Hmm.
to be
All the hippie
softies.
parents raising their kids to be free spirits and be sexually liberated and no consequences, and yeah, all that stuff.
And then last but not least, Gen Z from 1997 to 2002. That's a short generation.
Hmm.
16%, 15.9. I rounded up.
So it went
15.9%.
damn. So it like kind of shot up there pretty
So
quickly.
it's going to be, yeah, we're basically looking at this point, 1 in 5 young kids are identifying as LGBT. 1 in 5.
Mm,
When
that's
it used to be 1 in 100. Now it's 1 in 5. Let that sink in.
that's pretty it's pretty shocking.
So there you go. Yeah, there's some theories in chat here. Dari says, we're more civilized and hopefully educated. It's about victimhood and special rights nowadays. So that's the
Mm,
root of what I would say about this whole thing is that number one, the people who give you a single variable for the increase are lying, and then number two, you have to acknowledge that it has been incentivized. Doesn't matter how much you say
mm.
it hasn't. It has been incentivized. So kids get
Oh
attention,
yeah.
social, um, social approval, and more friends and whatnot, more attention. It's absolutely been incentivized, and it's just very similar. And this is the blind spot that the leftists don't see coming, is that once the trans population has gotten to a point to where it's kind of not ubiquitous, but it's pretty much normalized, where we don't really care about it anymore. Kind of like gays right now. It used to be kind of edgy or punk to be gay, right? It was like a kind of a deviant.
Hmm.
It was a deviant thing, and now you're just if you're gay, people are like, oh yeah, whatever, who cares? Because you got your marriage,
Yeah,
you got
nobody gives a shit if you're gay. It's like, okay,
exactly.
and
But they used to. They used to
oh
care.
yeah.
But the point is now it's boring, so they don't get that. There's no incentive to be that. You have to always get to the harder and harder drug to get the high, right? You have to keep advancing to the next level of sexual deviancy, the new thing, to get that it's got to be unique and new to get that attention and that incentive, the social incentives. So eventually, the point that I'm trying to make here, taking the long road, is that once these transgender stuff gets ubiquitous, it's going to lose its appeal, it's going to lose its attention, it's going to lose all the incentives, and no one's going to care about it anymore. The only difference between this and the gay thing is there's going to be irreversible damage being done to people as a result of this.
Yeah.
Even
Hmm.
not even
That's
if not even if you chop your parts off, but even if you just take hormones during pregnancy or during puberty, it's gonna mess you up for the rest of your life, regardless of whether you want to admit it or
yeah.
not. Not even
Preventing children from going through puberty is like the cruelest thing you can do. Because to me, it's like in order to really know if to me, if a person is really transgender, then you should go through puberty and go through that transition of going from a small, from a child to a teenager and get those proper hormones. And then if you still feel that way after getting your proper hormones, then maybe you are. But before, you don't know shit. You're a child, you're a
yeah,
baby. Like, you don't know anything. Like, you know, one day my nephew loves the color pink, the next day he loves the color green. So, kids are constantly changing their mind and kind of promoting children to think like this and think, oh, because I like these things, that means I'm the opposite gender. So give me hormones or give me hormone blockers and prevent me from going through puberty and really assessing and seeing if I actually am transgender. Like, that doesn't sound like a smart course of action to handle this situation that we've been given with the transgender movement.
no, yeah. Again, it's a lot of variables involved, but just be careful of people that do single variable explanations. You know what's scary though? Because I just gave the explanation about having to move on to the next level of degeneracy. Do you guys know what the next level of sexual deviancy is after this? Take a guess.
Oof.
Drop your guesses in the chat. I think you guys know.
Hmm.
Let's see. While you guys are dropping your guesses, I'm going to go over a few comments here. Let's see. Phil C says every TV show has the token gay guy and girl. Yep. Tardo says it's all about social media, the approval and the likes. Yeah, definitely. If there was no social media, there wouldn't be no trans people.
I
Uh,
don't think there wouldn't be trans people. I just don't think they would be as blown
well,
up and as glorified as they
I
are.
don't mean there wouldn't be a single one. I just mean like we wouldn't be talking about it. It wouldn't be a thing.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a thing. It wouldn't
Yeah.
be something that we're sitting here debating and like debating about whether or not we should give our kids hormone blockers or not, you
Yep.
know?
Athenian finally showed up. What's up, Athenian?
What's
She
up?
said a reminder, but it didn't go off. It's fine. Yeah, we know. We're getting censored all over the time. We're used to it. It's just another
Hmm.
tactic to destroy, weaken the nuclear family. Yeah, and lower the birth
That's why
rates too. Birth rates too. None of these people are having kids. As the LGBT goes up, kids' birth rate goes down.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the chat's fired with some guesses as to the next form of sexual deviancy. I
Yeah.
like it. I like it because that's where
No,
my head was
they
going
we
to.
all know where it's going because there's the great line that was brought up on Twitter that I saw and I wanted to relay to you guys, and that is this: that once you establish that kids can consent to life-changing procedures and hormone therapies, it's a very short distance for them to consent to other things, and we all know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep an eye out for that.
That's not an avenue that any of us, I don't think, want anyone to go down. But fortunately, these sickos are allowed to dictate what's going on.
Guys like what's funny to me is guys like Scott Adams say the slippery slope doesn't really exist. It's not a thing. Do you,
That's bullshit.
do you think the slippery slope's a real thing?
I think it is.
His he actually defines the slippery slope as he tries to debunk it because when he tries to debunk the slippery slope, he says, "Well, at some point in time, somebody will always stop what's happening." And it's like, yeah,
Mm,
that's what the slippery slope is. Nobody ever who's ever used the word slippery slope implied that it's going to continue on into infinity. It's going to get to the point to where we're now letting kids give consent for sexual activities, and then someone's going to pump the brakes and be like, "Oh, wait a second." So I think what we are experiencing is the slippery slope, the sexual deviancy slippery slope. It started out with the gay stuff. It moved on to, I mean, we all saw it happen. It started with the LG, and then we added the B's, and then we added the T's, and then the Q's, and the plus, and all the whatever. It's happening right in front of your
the
eyes, people.
QRX element P.
The spaghetti people. It's
The
happening right in front of your eyes,
spaghettis.
people. We all know what's happening. The trans thing largely came through
Hmm.
Tumblr. Yes, the naked guy. You would love the explanation that we did. When did we do that? We talked about how it started on Tumblr. Was that last stream? I
I
gave
think it was last stream.
Yeah, I gave a whole origin story of the trans and the sexual deviancy stuff, and you're exactly right, sir. It is Tumblr that where all this. There was the sludge pit analogy. Remember? That was a great analogy.
Hmm. That was.
So that's our story on the trans stuff. Let's move on to something a little more interesting. We got some more statistics of a recent study that just came out on the top topics concerns from the left and the right, politically speaking. Here, so as you can imagine, it was quite different on both sides. And
Mm.
before I go over this, I'm just curious. Let me give you they limited to 10 or so categories, and this is what they offered: illegal immigration, discrimination against Christians, tech censorship, election fraud, legal abortion in the third trimester, China, Antifa violence, socialism, moral decline of the country, liberal bias in mainstream media, high taxes, and lack of support for the police. What do you think of those was like the top one or two for conservatives? If you were just to guess.
Uh, Probably illegal immigration and high taxes. That would be my guess.
Pretty good guess. Because we've got illegal immigration as number one for GOP's most concerned ideas. Now, just wait until we contrast with what the left says. So these are real issues, right? With lack of support for police, you got to have law and order in your society. That's just a societal standard, a constant, right? You have to have law enforcement. High taxes is number three. Liberal bias in mainstream media is number four, and general decline of the country, moral decline of the country is number five. Socialism,
Mm.
Antifa, China, legal abortion, election fraud, and surprisingly, big tech censorship was towards the bottom, which was a little strange to me. I
Mm.
would have thought that would have been higher, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's your order of most concern. Now let's scroll down to top concerns on the left. How concerned are you, if at all, that the following are a problem for the country? Asked of Democrats plus left-leaning voters. Number one, Donald Trump's supporters.
Wow.
Uh, Number two, white nationalism. Number 3, systemic racism. Number 4,
Wow.
gun violence, which is a little strange. Are they talking about gang gun violence in like Chicago and inner cities? Because that is an actual big problem.
Mm.
I would agree with that one. That's a major problem. But I think,
No, they're concerned about white people with guns, Jeremy. That's what they're concerned about.
yes, because the next one is Americans lacking healthcare coverage. Man, so see, that's the first legitimate item on this list. Americans lacking healthcare
Right?
coverage. And then right after that is domestic terrorism, which again is Trump supporters. And then police brutality. And then discrimination against LGBTQ Americans. My God. And
Mm.
capitalism is on the list too. That's funny. But the the contrast with these lists is that illegal immigration, law enforcement, taxes, mainstream media bias, those are real issues. Those are real things.
Yes.
Uh, Donald Trump supporters, white nationalism, systemic racism, and gun violence, which they're trying to imply that white people with fully semi-automatic nuke launchers, that is not a real thing. Systemic racism, white nationalism. There's no such thing as white nationalists. There's like 3 of those guys, and they live in Louisiana, and they don't even have the internet. Donald Trump supporters.
Mm.
Where do you think the ideas are coming from? This is what this says about how the left and the right get their information and their ideas, because you can tell that if you contrast this list right here of the leftist top concerns with a like a yearly objective view of MSNBC's goals or CNN's goals and top priorities, it would line up exactly. So if you well, to word that better, if you took all the time that each one of these topics were covered in minutes on these channels, it would line up exactly with what you see in front of you. So they covered Donald Trump supporters the most, then it's white nationalism, then it's systemic racism, and then it's gun violence, and then it's healthcare coverage, which is a real issue. That's a real issue. And then it's back to the fake issues, domestic terrorism. So they sprinkle in a real issue, but it's the one that everyone's most emotionally concerned about. Healthcare coverage, of course, and then police
Yeah.
brutality. Police brutality? Are you kidding me? Statistically speaking, do you know how rare police brutality is?
Oh, it's so rare. It
It's like
happens more to white people than black people,
infinitesimally rare.
technically. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we're talking what there's 19 or 20, 25 blacks shot by police last year out of how many millions of police encounters that occurred throughout the year?
Oh,
Jesus.
well, it's like my because I'm looking at it too right now, and literally all of these things that they list for the leftists or the spaghetti brain people out there, these all are just like you said, they're all just talking points that CNN, MSNBC, ABC, they've all been just toting for the last 4 years for their supporters to follow. It doesn't like it just doesn't make it's not like you said, there's not real issue in there, but the things on the GOP that they're concerned about, these are actual real issues. These are actually real things that are happening that are really like disintegrating our society that need to like be addressed. But of course, they're not going to talk about any of like illegal immigration or high taxes to the leftists because that's too hard for their tiny brains to comprehend.
So let's no, it's a great point. Let's introduce a skill here. Let's introduce a technique that I like to use. It's a critical thinking technique that let me just come up with a name for it off the top of my head. We'll call it the what you would expect to see technique. So let's go through both of these lists, just the top one, just to give an example of how this technique works. So if we're actually critically thinking about this, and if these lists are real, we want to test that somehow in our head, right? So if this list, if Donald Trump supporters is actually a legitimate top concern for the left, the question is, what would you expect to see in reality if that was the case? So the answer to that would be probably, we would expect to see countless stories of people wearing MAGA hats, just beating people with nooses and yelling MAGA country, throwing Subway sandwiches at people, dumping
Mm-hmm.
bleach on them. You know what I
Hank,
mean?
Hank, hanging nooses in their garages.
So many nooses hanging from garages, blacks getting lynched and dragged behind trucks with ropes, with people that have MAGA painted on their trucks,
Mm-hmm.
armed militias taking over parts of downtown, all wearing MAGA hats and camo gear. Like, that's what you would expect to see if this was legitimately the top concern in the entire country. Remember, we're talking about issues leading the most powerful country in the world of 350, 380, whatever it is, million people. The top concern is Donald Trump supporters. So if that was legitimately a top concern, that's the kind of stuff that you would expect to see. And you don't see any of that. I mean, am I wrong with that?
I mean, we didn't see it for 4 years when Trump was in office. So I'm still not seeing it, even though we got Trump out of office.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm just not seeing.
So if we
I'm just not seeing what they're seeing.
if we apply the what you would expect to see technique to this as a critical thinking exercise, it doesn't pan out. There is no logical explanation for why that would be top concern. Now let's do the same thing with illegal immigration. How concerned were you all? If at all, the following are a problem for the country. Top one, illegal immigration, with 81% saying extremely concerned. What would you expect to see in a country where illegal immigration is an extremely concerning idea? Would you expect to see brand new, shiny migrant children facilities being open? Would you expect to see 5,700 people coming across the border in record numbers in January? Would you expect to see criminal gang violence right across the border? Would you expect to see record amounts of methamphetamine and drugs being trafficked across the border into California? Would you expect to see an entire government of the country that you're right next to being taken over and owned by criminal cartels? Yes, you would expect to see
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah,
stuff. And guess what? That's
we
exactly
are
what's
seeing
happening.
it.
We are seeing that. This is much more rooted in reality. And remember, we're talking about the top issues for the entire country. Uh, and there is evidence that that's should be at the top of the list. There's real things happening there. We hear stories almost every week of illegal immigrants killing Americans and drunken car crashes or gang violence or whatever it is. There's actually stuff happening that would warrant that being the top of the list. Now, if we wanted to be really, really generous with the Donald Trump supporters thing, we could say that they're afraid of the Capitol riot and the protests going bad. Maybe, if we want to be really generous, but that's such a localized, small impact. We're not talking about thousands of people dying from drug overdoses and crime and human trafficking. Oh, I didn't even mention that. We didn't even talk about the kids being trafficked across the border, which is also
Oh
happening
yeah.
with this, which is why Trump had all those child trafficking efforts going on. It's all tying back to illegal immigration. Also, illegal immigration ties in directly with the wages, which ironically the left don't shut up about, raising the minimum wage. You know how else? You know what else you could do to help the wages? Lower illegal immigration. Lower the low skilled wage.
Yeah.
Lower the low skilled labor coming into the country. You would increase the wages for the lower and middle class. But they don't want to talk about that.
Oh, oh, don't you know that according to the leftists that the the illegals, they get all the jobs that the Americans don't want to do, like
Oh
picking
yeah,
strawberries in fields. It's like I know
it's the
plenty of
best argument
people
they
that
have.
would be willing to go out and pick strawberries in a field. Like, why do you have to hire illegals to do that? Why can't you hire Americans to come in and do that?
It's because it's
You
the
know,
only
low.
argument they have. It's the only
It's
thing they can
sad.
say. So, lack of support for police. Gee, what would you expect to see? Again, applying my logical, the critical thinking test to this. What would you expect to see in a world where the lack of support for police is the number two most critical issue in the country?
We had that last summer where with all the riots going on across the country.
Maybe a countrywide political movement that goes across all 50 states to defund the police. That's the
Yeah.
kind of thing you would expect to see if this was going to be a top concern for the people, which is happening. And the police, anti-police violence, and every other number of anti-police sentiment that's happening right now. That seems like
Yeah,
it's
and you would
also a
see
logical choice.
you see police officers getting shot and sitting in their car doing nothing, not hurting anybody.
Yep.
We've seen that happen several times.
with very minimal media coverage too, which implies that they're not exactly strongly against it.
Well, and that goes into the next category, which is the liberal bias in the media,
Mm-hmm. Feeds right into that.
because feeds right the high it feeds into all of that. The liberal bias doesn't cover any of these things
Let's
because they
apply.
don't. Yeah, they don't want to talk about that
Let's.
because it's such a such a complex uh, discussion to have, and they don't want to be wrong, or they don't want to
They don't
sound
want to admit that they're
stupid, so they
wrong,
just
and
or they don't want to they don't want to sound ignorant or sound like they're racist for having certain political ideology, even though they're reporting on something totally different. It's pathetic.
so let's apply the critical thinking test again to this item. What would you expect to see in a world where liberal bias in the mainstream media is a real issue? Would you expect to see things like media not covering any stories that make the left look bad, like the Cuomo sexual allegations that have been happening, that's been covered by for 0 minutes by any mainstream media, while they're nonstop talking about Ted Cruz going to Cancun?
Well, they can't cover Andrew Cuomo and his sexual allegations because he won an Emmy, so
Oh,
or
that's
he was
right. Yeah,
nominated for an Emmy.
you win
that
immunity when
that
you get
gives
an
him
Emmy.
glory.
Yeah. Would you expect to see mainstream media colluding with big tech to cover up stories like the Hunter Biden scandal and the pay for play and the drug addictions? Would you expect to see stuff like that? Yes. So this is another
Yeah, because
one.
it's happening.
These items pass the critical thinking test, the logical critical thinking test. These items
Hmm.
do not. What would you expect to see in a world that's ravaged by gun violence? Well, ironically, you would expect to see people getting shot every day. And that's exactly what you do see, but it's not white people.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
they they're not concerned about the gun violence that's actually happening, because when they've said this on here, they put this on the list. They weren't talking about black people shooting each other.
Yeah, they weren't talking about gang violence and inner city rivalries and gangs killing each other. They're not talking about that gun violence. They're talking about crazy white people going and shooting places because that happens all the time. That happens way more than black people killing other black people
Yep, those fully automatic AR-15 assault rifles. They just go out and
with a nuke attachment.
yep. So I think you guys get the point. We can very easily test these topics by just doing simple critical thinking techniques to see if they actually make any logical sense, and you can tell very easily that they do not, especially for the concerns on the left. Donald Trump supporters are not any kind of legitimate threat, but we both know, me and you, everyone else watching, that this is just literally a translation of the top items and the coverage from the mainstream media companies directly into these people's brains. They have like a direct high speed connection into these mutants' brains and to download the narratives. And that's what we're seeing right here. That's all this is a confirmation that they're mind controlled by the media.
Mm.
Sexism, Jesus Christ. Top concern in the country. Sexism, yeah.
Yeah,
Sexism
and
against men.
capitalism is such a concern. Even though capitalism has lifted more people out of poverty than any other economic system has before.
Oh, well, I mean, sometimes we love capitalism. When Oreo tells me that trans people exist, I love capitalism. But,
Oh yeah, me too. I mean, I personally love capitalism. When people tell me that so and so is canceled, I go out and buy their stuff right away. I love capitalism.
so speaking of that, I'm working on a website with my buddy who we are developing a cancel cash, we're going to call it. And if you get canceled, then your name goes up with the links to buy all your stuff. So you have one-stop shop.
Hell
Anytime somebody
yeah.
gets canceled, you can go to the site, you see why they got canceled, and then you get a direct link to buy all their shit and support them and give them money.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be
Yes, capitalism, baby.
there. You go, capitalism with a capital C.
Hmm.
AR with a chainsaw attachment, exactly, Phil. There's a lot of those running around. You know.
Yeah, for the zombies.
Ma says, thanks for saying the truth, Jeremy. Gun violence is a black thing. Yes, it is. But again, statistics, we can't really. Statistics are racist. And proof that statistics are racist is directly in this next story. It's a great segue right there. Did you like that?
Oh yeah.
We've got a hilarious but also terrifying story from the Oklahoman. Oklahoma murder suspect confesses to killing neighbor, cooking her heart, investigators say. And
Ooh.
if you're watching the stream, you get a picture of the suspect here. But for those who aren't watching, let me just say he's not white.
Oh, I mean, I
He's
figured,
he's not even
but
brown. He's very not. He's very dark.
is he Akon black?
Yeah, actually, kind of. So now the just that alone is terrifying. But let me just jump into this because this is going to be unbelievable. From Chickasha, Oklahoma, a triple murder suspect has confessed, saying he killed a neighbor first and cut her heart out to eat it at home. The OSBI reported. Quote, he took the heart back to 214 West Minnesota Chickasha. An agent with the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation told a judge in request for a search warrant. Quote, he then cooked the heart with potatoes to feed his family to release the demons. The
Ooh,
agent wrote.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
So,
he definitely is feeding the demons there, but whatever.
Lawrence Paul Anderson is accused of killing the neighbor at her home and then going to his home and killing his uncle and a 4-year-old girl on February 9th. He's also
Oh,
accused of
poor
stabbing
baby.
his aunt. She survived. So he tried to kill 4 people. 3 of them died.
Wow.
And if you weren't already upset, just put your chin straps, tighten them up, guys. The case has already sparked outrage because the repeat felon had been released early from prison in January. That's right,
Oh,
folks. He had been sentenced in 2017 to serve 20 years behind bars, but got out after Governor Kevin Stitt commuted his time. And do you know why he commuted his
okay.
time? Do you think it
Let me
is?
guess.
Yeah, take one or
Because
two
he's
guesses.
black?
Take one or two guesses. Yep. That's probably the big one because I tried to look. I looked into this. They passed criminal justice reform bullshit back in 2019 that basically fast tracked commutations for people exactly like this guy. So
Well, what did he go to prison for originally for what was he sentenced for originally for 20 years? Was it like murder or rape or something? Or like what
um,
was he
let me open the
what was
article.
the like I was gonna say what was the original offense? Because it's like if got sentenced to 20 years, he didn't it wasn't like he did something it's not like he stole a pack of gum from the grocery store. He must have done something bad to get 20 years, and for the governor to commute his 20-year sentence, that's kind of shady.
Anderson. Oh, so that wasn't even the first time. So he went to jail in 2016 for 4 years for attacking his girlfriend, pointing a gun at her, and possession of crack cocaine with intent to distribute. He was out in less
Oh
than two
wow.
years. So he went in and out, in and out, in and out. And he went back into prison in 2012 to serve a 15-year sentence for selling cocaine near an elementary school. He was ordered to spend 20 years on probation after his release. He was let out less than 5 years and 4 months. And then he got back into prison in 2017 to serve 20 more years when a judge both revoked his probation in full and sentenced him for new crimes. His probation violations, including testing positive for PCP and cocaine use. His new crimes involved having a gun and sneaking PCP into jail.
This is
He
somebody
got
that
out,
should have been in prison for a long time.
and he got let out early 3 times because of
Wow.
racial justice and equity. And also, I also did some background on Mr. Kevin Stitt, the governor over there in Oklahoma. Sorry for anyone who lives in Oklahoma, but Jesus Christ, this guy commuted. Let me pull up my stats here. I think it was 700 people in his first year.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And he let out, guess what? He let out 400, 450 prisoners he let out last year due to COVID. So we can't let our prisoners get sick. We have to let them out. And then some of them will kill 4 people and eat their hearts. He commuted 774 people total in his first year in office. So,
Well, like I'm fine if like he's commuting sentences of people who are, drug not drug dealers, but like weed or, just smaller crimes, but commuting sentences of violent felons and drug addicts and drug distributors, that's not smart. I feel like the governor is kind of responsible for this kind of the governor should be held responsible for the deaths of these people,
kind of
like
seems that
in
way.
my honest opinion.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion, because if the governor didn't commute this guy's sentence and this guy was still in prison, this never would have happened. or it might have something similar might have happened, but he freaking cooked the damn heart and fed it to his family. Like, what is
Well,
this?
this brings up another great point because the cooking the heart and the PCP and all that stuff. Guess what? So there was just there was a case of that. Do you remember last year a black guy died in police custody. They had a bag over his head and he was naked and he was like spitting at people. Do you remember that video footage? It was going
Hmm.
around.
Yeah.
I forgot what the guy's name was, but people were mad last week because the cops in that situation got let off. But guess what they were calling it? They were calling it a mental health crisis. In
Mm.
reality, the guy was high on PCP. So this right here, if we were to use their logic, this guy, he had a mental health crisis, quote unquote, but he was actually probably on PCP, which means that, when a guy kills 4 people and rips a heart out and eats it, or kills 3 people, we want to do is want to send social workers. We want to send unarmed social workers
Oh,
to uh,
yeah,
to
that
f-
sounds
to
like a great
to
plan.
correct the situation. Yeah, because we don't want to agitate somebody in a mental health crisis. We want to make sure that we're not escalating that physically and that we're not putting them
Mm.
in danger. That's their argument. Remember that. And we've already seen it once with this guy that got we were talking about last week. He was on PCP and they called it a mental health crisis. No, it's not a mental health crisis. He's high on PCP.
Yeah, he's a drug addict. And that's
So
what PCP does. It makes you do crazy stuff.
this could be a new language war tool that you're going to see a lot now with this policing stuff and the defund the police and the whole community policing and social workers instead of cops. That's what they're going to hinge it all off of is mental health. So keep in mind the definition of what mental health means to them. To them, being high on PCP means a mental health episode worthy of not being responded to by a police officer, worthy of being responded
Mm.
to by a social worker. So I don't know. And I
Um,
go ahead.
I mean, I was gonna say, if their response to these people that are high on PCP and drugs and are violent is to send in a social worker, we're gonna have a lot more stories of dead social workers here soon, folks.
Anthony says in chat, social workers dressed in bomb disposal gear so they can't get killed. Uh, EOD suits.
Yeah.
Yeah. MA says in Canada, some guy decapitated a man and ate his heart. He got off for mental health after 10 years. He's free now. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Mm.
that's well, just
No.
remember we talked a few weeks back about the new guy, the new AG of Los Angeles, Gascon. This is the exact kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff that they did in LA. They reformed the criminal justice laws so that people who were doing misdemeanors or repeat offenses got out earlier, fast tracking commutations. It's the exact same thing that they were doing in LA. So you can expect a lot of hearts to be eaten coming up in LA in the next year or two.
Hell yeah.
Because
I look forward to it.
yeah, and it's gonna go full Escape from LA dystopian nightmare down there in no time, as people are just getting let out of prison for chopping heads off and stuff.
Hmm. It's
Uh,
a wild world, folks. Stay away from dippers, kids.
so that's our first story on racial equity. Terrifying. Hopefully this made a little dent in the back of your head there. Our next one's a little more lighthearted, but still equally terrifying on a different wavelength here. This is more in the education sphere. Boston Public Schools suspends advanced academic program due to racial equity concerns.
Oh God.
So I don't know about you guys, but when I was in school, I remember when I was in like 7th grade or 8th grade, at geometry, and then I asked, it was way too easy for me, and I remember asking my teacher, "Hey, can I do like AP or advanced? Can I do pre-calculus or whatever it was?" I wanted to like basically
Mm-hmm.
skip the next thing in line, and I did that with a few other topics too. Like I was doing physics like 2 years earlier than everybody else in high school. I was doing physics. I was already getting college credits for it. So I was, it was more tailored to my ability. I could do these topics where most other people couldn't. But under Boston Public Schools, that situation wouldn't have been possible. Now I would have had to have stayed back with all the other idiots and the window lickers, who couldn't even do basic
Mm.
algebra. And what would have happened to my economic viability? It would have decreased quite a bit. And for every other intelligent person, namely, the Asians and the white people who are excelling, who are the reason why they're ending this, because the Asians and the whites are just blowing the blacks and the Mexicans out of the water.
Don't
Anyway,
forget the Indians too, man. We got to be
yeah,
diverse.
it's true. It's true. Yeah. So from the collegefix.com, Boston Public Schools will be suspending an advanced learning program for its fourth, fifth, and sixth graders because too many white and Asian students are participating.
Oh wow.
According to WGBH, Superintendent Brenda Casilius recommended a 1 year enrollment suspension for what's known as the advanced work class due to COVID 19 worries and concerns about equity. So that sentence right there just summarizes perfectly the state of society today. When a woman's in charge, everything gets shut down because of COVID and equity. Is there a better
Hmm.
summation of this current state of affairs in America today?
That's true equality, folks.
Sorry for the ladies in chat, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, we do.
According to the district website, the advanced work class provides an accelerated academic curriculum for students in the grades noted. Those enrolled study in greater depth and with more schoolwork and more home study than the traditional curriculum. Over 70% of students in the AWC are white and Asian, despite the district being 80% black and Hispanic. Oh, Jesus. I
Oh,
never read that part. No wonder she wants to cancel it. Holy smokes. Let me read that again for the folks who didn't
yeah.
hear that. Over 70% of the students in the advanced program are white and Asian, despite the district being 80% black and Hispanic. Ouch.
Yeah,
That's a
that's a
big
big
oof.
owie.
That's a big
I
oof right
mean,
there.
I don't blame her for wanting to cancel it because it doesn't make her look good.
Well,
Again, optics. It doesn't make her
yeah,
look good
that's what it
if
is. Yeah.
if, if like if 80% of her district is, colored, minority, whatever you want to call it, and they're not enrolling in advanced classes. So that
Hmm.
doesn't make her look good as a superintendent. It makes her kind of look like a failure. So I don't blame her for wanting to get rid of it or make it, harder for people to get into it. I don't know what she's canceling it or
It's
whatever.
just a continuation of everything we've been seeing with schools. When you can't meet the standards, you just lower the standards or you just destroy the programs
Mm-hmm.
altogether, like standardized testing. Same exact thing with
Yep.
standardized testing, SATs and stuff like that. Oh, no, blacks and Mexicans, they can't, not Mexicans, Hispanics, you know what I mean? They can't score as well. So we're going to just, you know, get rid of the standardized testing. I heard a noise from stereo.
Yeah, I was gonna say we got a chat in
All
stereo.
right, here we go,
Let's
guys.
check it out.
You ready? This is our first ever stereo chat. It's probably going to be a porn sounds.
Problem is, everybody looks straight to race to try to find a problem. The biggest, like, factor is usually your economic standing and your family structure. So just that people pointing out like, oh, it's because you're black, oh, it's because you're white, like it's that's you're looking at stuff like what's on the cover, like on a book. You got actually have to look into it.
Agreed. I agree with that listener. He brought up a good point.
No, it is a great point because if you looked at the statistics, it's 80% black and Hispanic. If you're in a district that's 80% black and Hispanic, it's probably a lower income area. Those kids and the people who wrote this article, they leave a part in here that says specifically that the advanced learning program requires more home study than the traditional curriculum. What they don't want to talk about as well, just like in line with what that guy said, is that these Hispanics and the black kids, they don't have a stable home environment to do the additional study in. So it's not race. There's other variables involved, like the income, like the home
Mm-hmm.
environments to do the homework and to do the studying, that they're just completely ignoring and they're sweeping it under the rug because again, we're looking at the surface level things like the race, and we don't want to look bad when that report goes up to the district or it gets out to the local news station, and then people are calling old Brenda or whoever it is, whatever the superintendent, to ask her why her nobody is excelling in that program. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a complete crumbling of the actual scientific method of trying to solve problems, of looking at all the variables, and instead we're
Mm-hmm.
just saying, oh, my racism, and then we're sweeping it under the rug.
Yep.
It's awful.
Thank you. User's name is in stereo is Agent Carmichael. Thank you so much for that, for the sending us that chat, for that video recording. That was awesome. Thank you. That was our first one. So
It's a great
thank you
point.
for joining us.
Yeah, it was a good point. Superintendent Casilli said there's a lot of work we have to do in the district to be anti-racist. Oh God, there's that word again, and have policies where all of our students have a fair shot at an equitable and excellent education. So we're to make things fair, we're gonna stomp down the smart people to make sure that everyone's dumber. We're not gonna try and lift up the people on the bottom. We're gonna try and stomp down the people at the top.
Instead
So
of encouraging people on the bottom to do better, work harder, do your homework, study, parent, and encouraging the parents to take care of their kids and make sure they're involved in their kids' lives. It's no, let's just take away the program altogether that rewards the smart kids. Like, where's the equity in that? Where's the equity in taking away chances for smart kids? I don't understand how
that
that's equitable.
that's really what, if we were to deduce from the actions that are being taken in the name of equity, we can deduce that equity means hurting the people who are excelling in order to make the level equal, not bringing the people up from the bottom, hurting the people who are excelling. In everything that we've ever seen about equity, that's what it's always about. And this is yet another example on the pile. Just throw it on the pile.
Well, let me just say, Jeremy, because you're tall, you're 6'3", in order to make things equitable for all the short people, we need to cut you down and make you shorter, okay? So
I'm a height supremacist. What can I say?
yeah, you're a total height. And I am too, because I'm above average for a female. I'm 5'10", so I need to cut a few inches off my limbs in order to be equitable to all the short bitches out there.
Well, I know you're joking when you say that, but in reality, it's gonna get to that point where even things like height are, somebody calls that unfair. Even if you were to bring up, like participation in the NBA, for example. I'm not as tall as those guys, but I deserve to be able to play in the NBA too. So we need height equity. There's always going to be an argument that they can make to try and get some equity wherever they want, no matter how absurd it really is.
We got another message in stereo as well. You want to give that a play, or
can you play it?
Let me see if I can play it, and then everybody can hear it.
I think this has speaks a lot to equity versus equality. Like, there's a big separation. Like, everyone agrees there should be equality, which basically means we all start from the same place, and we all have the same opportunities, and then we just all go from there, and whoever ends up at the finish line first, so and so. But there's like this big movement about equity, like we all equity of like outcome, where like everyone has to end up the same. Like, that's like basically like communism or like socialism. You can't just like deliver the same outcome to everybody. I mean, everyone should get the same fair starting chance, and whoever can like win out in society does. But it's like we can't like force everyone to do well equally.
Yeah, and you
are 100% correct.
Yeah, you know what the root of the problem is there is, I think the root can be traced back to what we call the perfection fallacy. So the perfection fallacy is basically that if we can't make every single kid succeed, then we're just going to enforce our equity and go a roundabout way of trying to get the quote unquote equality that we want, because the alternative to doing the equity, because he's right, we all want equality. We all want equality of opportunity and everything. But the problem with that is when you go into a meritocratic system where it's based on achievement and you're making some people excel, not everybody is going to excel. There is going to be some people who don't meet the minimum requirements for success.
They don't make the cut.
And that is where the perfection fallacy kicks in, because they don't want that. If one kid fails, the same way that if one black person dies to cops, there's systemic racism. If one kid fails and has a terrible time in school, then it's all inequitable and it's all injustice. So
the whole No Child Left Behind thing, I think, has a lot to do with that as well. Like
that was a big part of it.
I think it has a big part of it. With the whole No Child Left Behind, it's like if you have a class of like 30 kids and only one of them is like not doing well in math, the whole class has to be held back until that one student gets what everybody else understands, and it holds the whole class back. So instead of moving forward with mathematics and science and all that other stuff, they're being held back because of one or two or three. Now I can understand if it's like half the class doesn't get it and holding back, that's fine. But if it's like one or two, that can be remedied through the parents, through the teachers, through tutors, all that stuff. There's so many resources to help those one or two, those outliers that aren't getting it. But instead, we want to, the whole idea that we need to hold everything back. I agree with that guy. He said that it's like communism. It is. That they're gearing the kids up for that idea of we all can't move forward until the few outliers are moving forward with us.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. We can't save everybody. Again, that perfection fallacy that we always bring up. You can't save everybody. You can only save yourself.
Everybody
so
wants
focus on
equality of
yourself.
outcome. Everybody equality of opportunity. I mean, not everybody wants that. I want it. You want it. Everybody wants equality of opportunity. But when you say that, you have to realize you're accepting an imperfect system. Not everyone is going to succeed. They are unwilling to admit that, which is why they're stuck in this path of equity. Let's see here. Let me go to some chat comments here on YouTube. Tardo McGee says, not everyone wants equality. It's literally impossible. Well, yeah.
It is.
Quality of opportunity, not outcome. Quality of outcome is impossible, and they're going to continue to try to achieve it so much they're going to stomp everybody into the ground until we're all retarded cavemen. Osis says
A little bit, yeah.
Osis says there's too many Ralph Wiggums out there. Yeah, that's true.
I'm special.
Some people are just not suited for doing well in school. Why can't we just accept that? MA, it's because of the perfection fallacy. Everything, every leftist viewpoint hinges to some degree off of the perfection fallacy. They live in an ideal perfectionist world where there's no police shootings, there's no black crime, everyone makes the exact same dollar amount, everyone gets the exact same grades, everyone lives for the exact same duration, everyone weighs exactly the same, there's the exact same heights. They literally want to be carbon copies of each other. So
They want us to all be carbon copies of each other and not have a single damn thought, a single damn, idea that's different and goes against the grain. It's introduction to communism.
brief interjection here. For those who are listening on the podcast or on stereo, we are streaming this show live on youtube.com/weeklynarrative. So if you ever want to join the live show and join the text chat there, you can do so. If you're on one of those other platforms and you want to join the voice chat, you can join stereo. Follow at Weekly Narrative on stereo. You can join and drop us voice clips like you heard there. It's a new platform that we're exploring. We are literally streaming to 5 different platforms all at once right now. So, we're trying to push the barriers of what's technologically possible while trying to educate and discuss a topic that nobody really likes to talk about these days, which is critical thinking. So thank you for those of you who are watching.
We have another voice in stereo. Let me give that a play real quick.
Hold on. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and like the idea that everybody is suited for academics or higher education is so crazy. Like there are so many people that should not go to college, that should go to a trade school. That we have
It's a good point.
We have like a super low number of like people in the trades right now, and like being plumbers and electricians. Like those are good paying jobs, and we need them. Some people are meant to be those people. Not everyone should be scholarly. I mean, you know what I mean? Like they're smart people or academically smart, and some are street smart, or some are good with their hands. And we need people in all the fields. So like we need to push some people who we can tell should go to trade school. I mean, it's cheaper, it's better. I mean, you can earn 6 figures being an electrician. I mean, like, why wouldn't you do that? Why are you going to study, like anthropology and not get any money for that, and instead of doing that?
You're telling me I can't make any money in underwater gender studies?
What?
It's a great point because
I can't make money in lesbian dance theory. What?
well, if you started an OnlyFans, you probably could, but
I could definitely make tons of money on OnlyFans.
it's a great point because even though we were talking about elementary school, there's just a built-in assumption that everyone has to go to college, and that's not true. I don't know. It's leading people down the path of destruction more often than not because they get in a ton of debt and
yeah.
where they could go to trade schools and earn a lot of money working with their hands, doing something productive, actually helping, the infrastructure of the country, providing services. But yet, everybody just wants to be an intellectual to get a degree in gender studies and then go on Twitter and tweet about, or go to HR and then you work for Coke and then you write and then or you get a degree in HR, gender studies, underwater gender studies, basket weaving, and then you work for Nabisco where you make tweets for Oreo that say transgender people exist. And then you wonder why you're only making $45,000 a year and you're buried in debt and you want to kill yourself. So let's jump on to our next topic here. Let me pull this up. We're going to be talking about, what are we going to be talking about? I forgot what was even on here. Oh yeah. I got one more quick follow-up on the racial equity thing. This is kind of funny because Yale College, good segue, now that we're talking about colleges.
Okay.
Yale was accused of being racist because the top law journal at Yale Law apparently was racist in their admissions data. But then when they actually looked at the
Okay.
admissions data, it was the exact opposite. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah. The Yale Law Journal on Friday, this is from freebeacon.com. The Yale Law Journal on Friday released admissions data in the face of a week-long pressure campaign in which activists alleged that blacks are underrepresented and on the masthead. The numbers demonstrate the opposite, showing that blacks and other minority groups are overrepresented on the prestigious journal relative to both the student body at large and the general population. So they're overrepresented in two statistics, not just the general population. The conflagration began on Tuesday after a journal editor, Gavin Jackson, resigned, saying that he felt, quote, used and tokenized in his position. Jackson's resignation elicited furious statements from a raft of affinity groups at the law school, which are demanding that the journals prioritize anti-racism over meritocratic selection. That's right. Demanding that the journal
Okay.
prioritize anti-racism over meritocracy in their selection.
So he's basically saying just hire people because they're black, not because they're
Yep.
qualified.
Exactly.
Oh, great.
They're not even
That
trying
sounds
to hide
great.
it. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. They're just coming out and saying it. The activists made
That's awesome.
They made no concrete demands about the numeric representation, but alleged that, quote, inequities in journal admissions, meeting with the affinity groups to present platitudes about valuing diversity in the admissions process is insufficient, said the Black Law Students Association. So the numbers tell a different story, however. Not only are blacks and Hispanics elected for membership to the top law school's most prestigious journal at a higher rate than their white counterparts, but the admissions rate for blacks, 61%, is higher than that of any other ethnic group.
Wow.
So, the moral of the story here is what? It is that they will never stop. Even when they're overrepresented in more than one way, they're never going to stop crying about underrepresentation and inequality. So don't think that you can satisfy them by saying, hey, look at my company has 13.4% black employees. We match exactly what the population of the United States is. Wrong. Not enough.
It needs to be all black, Jeremy. It can't be just representative of the overall population of black people in America. It has to be predominantly black and very little white. That's basically what they want. They want, like, and I get it. They want to be in these spaces, but they are in these spaces and they're still complaining. That's what pisses me off.
Yeah, no, and
It's like it's like they want the representation, they get it, and then they still complain that there's not enough. It's like, how is that not enough?
And just to give people some reference here, we're talking about like one of the top, if not the top, law review journal in the entire country. The journal is consistently ranked the top law review in the country. Its alumni include 3 current Supreme Court justices and top members of the Biden administration, including National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. This is
Jake Sully.
This is the most prestigious, if not, well, one of the most prestigious law journals in the entire country, and they're already taken over by the racial equity, anti-racism people. So if this place pumped out 3 Supreme Court justices, what do you think's going to happen in like 30, 40 years when this school's been pumping out these law people? Is the Supreme Court going to get taken over by, I mean, we can only assume that, this law journal, this school, Yale, is going to continue to send people to the Supreme Court, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the only way you get through Yale is to get through the racial equity BS at the same time. So it's not far fetched to say that our Supreme Court could be filled in short time with people who believe all this racial equity stuff. And then,
Yeah.
yeah.
We got another message in a stereo. Let me play that real quick.
Have you guys been seeing the Google ads that have been all over the place? They are now putting like stickers on black-owned businesses that say black-owned. I don't. I know they're doing that for like they think they're doing that for good reason, but it just gives me really like pre Civil War like yucky vibes. Like see, like how they would label stores like white owned or black owned. I don't know. It's just it's just very yucky. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's
It is pretty yucky.
yucky is we talked about that last stream or the stream before that about how Yelp and Google now are starting. You can go on there and label yourself as a black-owned business, and yeah, no, it feels like you're kind of like marking your door to say, hey, I'm not, don't burn my business down. It's the digital version of so I live in Sacramento and I saw this with my own eyes. I'm sure a lot of you did too in the cities that you live in, but
Mm-hmm.
people were posting on their doors like begging, please don't burn my business down. This is a woman-owned business. This is a minority-owned business. This is the black-owned business.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a compliance signal. And it's never really a good thing when society in general is applying compliance signals to avoid violent terrorism happening against their businesses. And that's really where we're at right now is you have to signal to the mob that you're on their side by saying you're black owned or woman owned or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's pretty horrifying.
Well, imagine if Yelp had an option where you could like filter out the white-owned businesses. Imagine the backlash that Yelp would get if like
Oh,
they
yeah.
had that option where it's like,
Yeah, people
yeah,
will
these are
melt
white-owned
down.
businesses, or these are Asian-owned businesses. The fact that they're predominant, like they are specifically targeting black and like putting black at like the forefront. It's again like that, like he said in stereo, it's yucky. It gives like it's like you said, it's like pre-Civil War vibes of this is who we are, this is like what we're about, and if you don't agree with us then don't come in our business. That's not the way to go. Like that's not conducive to like a productive society when we separate ourselves like that and we put these stupid labels, arbitrary labels on ourselves like that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not a good indicator of where society's headed, that's for sure. And if you're also seeing stuff like this happening in the top law school in the entire country, like that tells you that what even the most, like what you would consider, you would think, you would hope would be the most intelligent people in our society, even they are susceptible to this. So it's only a matter of time before, if this continues on, that our Supreme Court gets taken over by people who believe this kind of stuff, and then I mean at that point it's pretty much all over. So
It's like our Supreme Court and just all of our courts in general, all the lawyers that are going to get churned out of Yale
yep.
Law School with this mindset. Like
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want a lawyer that's been like taught this kind of nonsense to represent me and represent my business and just try to like make sense of the law for me if they put the kind of like racist lens over their eyes and they are supposed to be lawyers and judges and shit like that. I don't want people like that to be representing us in higher offices in our society.
MA in chat says what scares me even more is that this is happening in in the conservative area in my community college. That's
Ooh.
that's terrible. See, that's the thing. There's a kind of a sect, I would call it like a blue pill, like beta. The weak conservatives, the ones who tend to be like more religious. I mean, the church is completely compromised these days. It's all about gender equality and feminism and like women leading the church and stuff like that. There is a section of the conservatives on the right who are placating to this stuff, and yeah, it's
Well, because they don't want to get canceled either. I mean, a lot of these people that are conservatives that are placating to it, they're business owners. They're, it's kind of the same thing that, Disney and all Coca-Cola has been doing. they're going to placate as well, because at the end of the day, they want to make money and survive and not get canceled and not get, not get labeled as a racist for, or whatever ism or istorage you want to label them as.
Mm-hmm.
They're just trying to save their hides. And yeah, that is pretty beta blue pill, but everybody's got to get their buck and stay alive, man. Unfortunately, it's sad that these conservatives are like so weak nowadays.
Yeah, that's really what it is. They're just weak. They don't want to stand up to this kind of stuff. They'd rather just go with it than stand up. They're when I say beta and blue pill, what I mean is they're like unconfrontational. They're not standing up for what they actually believe in and their principles. It's just, oh yeah, no, we're not racist. Please believe me. Please, whatever I have to do, please believe me. I'm not racist. That kind of stuff. It's just pure weakness. And since we're on the topic, this wasn't on my list of things to talk about, but since we're on the topic of the equity and anti-racism stuff infesting every aspect of society, did you hear that Superman is going to get a reboot?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, guess who's going to direct it? It's going to be written and directed by J.J. Abrams and Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Ugh, gross.
Ta-Nehisi Coates is like one of these anti-racism guys. It's all like kind of like Ibram Kendi. He writes books and stuff, and just an absolute toxic racist. He just hates white people. So what's gonna happen to Superman? I mean, Superman's the whitest superhero there is, right? He represents like the American exceptionalism and just being all powerful and white. And I mean, he is a white supremacist because he's white and he is supreme. So what's gonna happen to the new Superman?
They might make him black, as Anthony says in the chat.
I was thinking that, but I think with J.J. Abrams movies, I'm a movie guy, so I like to talk about movies too, but from time to time. I think what you're going to see, and this is my prediction, I already laid it out on Twitter, but I'm going to put my prediction out there just so the universe can hear it, and I can reference back to this video in 2 years when I'm right. Superman's not going to be the lead character in the movie. Superman's going to be like, he's probably going to be the protagonist. I'm sorry, the antagonist. And it's probably going to be a situation where they frame it as like the people struggling to live in a world that's adapting to, a Superman world, because, we don't know what Superman's going to do. Is he going to slaughter all the poor black criminals or whatever? And the lead character is probably going to be a minority or biracial, or the love interest is going to be biracial. And then there's definitely going to be a lot of like environmentalist or sustainability undertones, like, Superman's here, but he's depleting the planet's resources, and we need to they'll work in global warming or like white colonialism in there somehow. It's gonna be absurd. But those are my predictions for the movie anyway.
Or maybe they'll do the whole black super, because isn't there like in the Superman comic books, isn't there like the black Superman where he like goes evil and goes rogue and just goes on like killing sprees? Maybe they'll do something
Bizarro
like that.
Superman.
Yeah, maybe they'll do like something like that. Or as Athenian in the chat says, he'll be a sidekick to Lois Lane because of feminism.
That's a good one.
Yeah, they're going to make Lois Lane the hero.
See
and
ya,
then
MA.
J.J. Abrams is going to do lots of flares in the camera. So
Thanks for joining, MA. Yeah, do what MA says, guys. Like the video. Make sure let's get the engagement up on the YouTube here. Get some likes on that as we
yeah, we got 21 million watching on YouTube and only 12 likes, y'all. Come on, we can do better.
The big S is going to become a B for black, on his chest. Let's see. If you have Talcum X is the new Superman.
I mean, that would be cool. That would be interesting to see Talcum X doing that.
So anyway, I just thought that was funny. It's an interesting thing. Why is Ta-Nehisi Coates getting in on writing movies with J.J. Abrams? Just why? It's like a deliberate, open, blatant action to make, we got to write black roles and the black perspective into all these movies. Anyway, I just thought it was funny. It's going to be a disaster. We all know.
To me, what will be a better like energy spent is, instead of doing like another Superman movie, they should. That was my dog. Sorry. They should do a Green Lantern movie, like without Ryan Reynolds, without a white Green Lantern, because in the comic books Green Lantern was black, so that would be like a good way to get a black actor, a black voice, a black superhero out there, and it actually be accurate to the comic books.
It could be a situation. Like they do the Queen that Queen movie. They made her black. Maybe they're gonna make
Oh
Superman
yeah, yeah,
black too.
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Queen Marie or something. And
Hol-
I don't know which one it is, but
It
they're
was
just
supposed to be Queen. It was supposed to be
Queen
Queen
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth,
That's
wasn't
right.
it?
Yeah, yeah. And they're just like, well, history doesn't have any subjective interpretations, and you know this we think that she was black, and you know those black supremacist guys like Ta-Nehisi Coates and who's that other one? Not Tariq Nasheed, is it? No, I don't know. They all think that everyone in history was black, like Jesus was black,
Mm-hmm.
King Alfred was black, like everyone was black, and this could be a
Mm-hmm.
continuation of that. They're just
Well, I
blackwashing
mean,
everything.
and you know how they say Hollywood's so white, meaning like all the actors and all those stories in Hollywood are all a bunch of white people. They're gonna just do the opposite. They're gonna make Hollywood so black. All of these characters that they
Hmm.
write stories of, that they make because they in Hollywood they never have an original thought. It all comes from books and short stories and stuff. All of
Yep.
these books and short stories that have predominantly white protagonists, they're instead of it like being accurate to the book, they're just gonna blackwash everything and just
Yeah.
make all the characters black just for equity.
Well, Tardo McGee's got the right point. He says, "Let him fail. Nobody's going to see the movie. It's perfect." And that's exactly. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
I'm
Like,
not gonna go see it.
let him make these terrible movies. Let him make these terrible products, terrible art. They're one thing. It's impossible not to notice that the left is awful at making art these days. They used to be considered the artistic
Mm.
ones. You know, they'd be the musicians, they'd be the artists or whatever. Now they consider art like a banana duct taped to a piece of plywood. That's what they think is
Oh
art.
yeah.
They think all the movies that have come out in the last 2, 3, 4 years have been awful, trash, nothing good, nothing
Mm.
interesting. All these TV series are just propaganda. Like I tried. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I watched. This is purely for research purposes, people. Okay, judge me all you want. I don't care. But
Okay.
I watched. What's it called? Oh man, I can't even remember what it's called. What's that one with the chicks? You remember the one they go to the island? All the teenage girls they get
Oh,
sent.
the
The
Wilds.
Wilds. Holy smokes, guys! Have you seen the
Did it
Wilds?
get good?
Unbelievable propaganda. Spoiler alert. I'm just gonna spoil it because it's trash anyway, and you're not missing anything. The whole premise is that they take all these teenage girls that are experiencing awful life, and they simulate a plane crash. This megalomaniacal woman has a plot to take over the evil patriarchy by putting women through tough survival challenges on an island where they get stranded, and it's all about taking down the patriarchy. And all the girls have all their individual stories that are all about like, oh, I'm a lesbian, or I'm a feminist, or I'm this and that. It's all just every angle of
Just
propaganda that you can imagine. They racism, they play the indigenous
mm,
people angle, they play every possible angle, and that's what they consider entertainment. That's what they consider art.
mm.
So
When
it's
in reality, Jeremy, we both know if it was a island of stranded women, they would all die.
yeah, I give it a
They would not be. I'd
an,
give it a day, maybe.
F for realistic portrayal
Yeah.
because yeah, they would all been dead in 2 days flat. And actually, you know, I have evidence to back that up because if you watch Bear Grylls did a series called The Island where they voluntarily brought like 20 women and 20 men to this island, and they had to give medical support and intervene with the women in like 3 days because they were starting to die because they had no water and they had no food. So it's this yeah. I'm not just talking trash about women. It's we all know that they wouldn't make it. So
Yeah, they would barely like be able to come together to build a fire.
and
They
then
would like all
yeah,
argue about what the best way to make a fire.
right.
And then the one chick that actually knows how to make a fire, she gets shot down every time.
Yeah, they would. It would be an awful disaster. Well, let's jump into our final segment of the night. This is our COVID segment. We got some fantastic news for you guys on the COVID front. New Zealand, the country that touted its immortality, its amazing government response. God, New Zealand is so great, isn't it? They have a woman leader, and they just got over
Mm-hmm.
they got over COVID so fast. And how do they not have any cases? It's amazing. I mean, look at they're all outside. They're not wearing masks. They're hugging each other. Did I mention they have
They comply.
yeah? Did I mention they have a woman leader? I mean, that's probably the main reason why they're led by a woman. But now we
Yep.
got an article here from theguardian.com. New Zealand, Auckland, which is the biggest city in New Zealand, to go into 7-day COVID lockdown. Restrictions in the
Oh
country's
no.
biggest city to be imposed after one single case of COVID was detected.
Are you kidding me?
No, this is dead serious. One case was detected and they lock their entire city down.
I mean, sad, but I guess like
So,
from an outsider's perspective, that's quite impressive that they're able to lock their entire city down just for one person.
it's incredible, but let's take bets, people. Let me see. If you think it's only going to last 7 days, put a 1 in the chat. If you think it's going to last longer than 7 days, because we both know there's probably no way that they're going to come back in 7 days and say, "Ooh, we're good to go. Look at how great we are again." Put a 2 in chat if you think that it's going to go longer than 7 days, because I want to see how much you guys trust the female leadership there in New Zealand and how well they handled it. I mean, they handled it so well initially, right? Wrong. So not
Well-
only, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, what is their population size?
2
Let me
million
look it up. Hold on.
in Auckland.
2 million? That
Yep.
just in Auckland?
2 million in Auckland.
Oh,
Yeah.
let me look.
I don't know how many in
was gonna
entire
say,
New
I'm gonna
Zealand. So it's
I'll look it up real quick. I got my computer in front of me.
this is nice. You can do research too. This is great.
Mm-hmm.
You're like the Jamie. Look that up. Hey, Delaney,
Yeah,
look
a
that
little
up.
bit. Yep. So New Zealand, their total population is 4.917 million people as of in 2019. So yeah,
Yeah, we got nothing
so
but
2
twos in
million
chat.
just in 2 million just in the city of Auckland. That's a pretty that's pretty dense city
And-
there.
And you might be
Considering I was gonna say considering that's like half their population.
Yeah, no, it's the biggest population center in the entire country, and you might be thinking, well, lockdown, it's not what is that? They're gonna not go to the don't go to the movies or something like that. No, this is level 3 lockdown, folks. This is their tightest level of restrictions. They didn't start at level 1 and then work their way up to 2. One person got it, and they went straight to level 3. So let's
Wow.
Let's go through the article here. New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said the country's biggest city, Auckland, will go into a 7-day lockdown from early morning on Sunday after a new local case of coronavirus of unknown origin emerged. It comes 2 weeks after Auckland's nearly 2 million residents were plunged into a snap 3-day lockdown when a family of 3 were diagnosed with the more transmissible UK variant. So, okay, they just had a similar 3-day lockdown just a couple weeks ago. Health officials who could not immediately confirm how the person got infected said genome sequencing of the new infection was underway. The patient developed symptoms on Tuesday and was regarded to having been potentially infectious since Sunday. The person visited several public venues during that period. Dun dun dun. That's all over. New Zealand's fallen. Based on this,
Yeah.
quote, "We are in unfortunate but necessary position to protect Aucklanders again." Listen to that. Remember, this is a woman leader.
Again.
This is a woman leader. Quote, "Based on this, we are in the unfortunate but necessary position to protect Aucklanders again." I just want to point out that they're implying that you can't protect yourself. We are in the necessary position as the government to protect you, the Aucklanders, again. So,
Well, of course, they know better than us. Well, they know better than their own people.
yeah, you're not capable. Let us protect you for you. Health authorities were trying to find out whether the new case was linked to the earlier February cluster, now at 12 infections. The lockdown, with level 3 restrictions, will allow people to leave home only for essential shopping and work. Public venues will be closed. Restrictions in the rest of the country will be tightened to level 2, including limits on public gatherings. So there you go. One person gets infected and the entire country goes on level 2 lockdown, with the major city going on level 3 lockdown.
Well, they're their own country. Let them do what they want, but that just sounds like a little bit of overkill to me.
No, Tardo McGee, you cannot visit Hobbiton. It says public gatherings will be restricted. Public venues will remain closed. That includes Hobbiton and Mordor.
Oh, dang it! Really wanted to get my what are they called? Really wanted to get my Hobbit on in New Zealand, but now I can't. Dang.
Yeah, well, the question here, not just to talk smack about New Zealand, which is fun because everyone was, yeah, New Zealand's the best. The question here is that a sustainable model going forward? You get one case and you shut your entire economy down for the most part. Venues are closed, public gatherings are closed, only essential business with one guy. One guy starts coughing and you shut everything down. That to me just seems, it screams like female overprotection. That's what that is. Again,
Yeah, sounds like female overprotection and female overkill because, we always got to overkill everything.
well, we talked about that last week, how everything, we talk about it all the time, but we talked about specifically last week how everything that you see, you should be looking at through a gendered lens. So, if a man was leading this, because everything naturally, especially regarding politics, and most of what you see in culture today is very feminine. It's all about, you can tell if the phenomenon or the idea is coming from masculine or feminine place based on its attributes. This is very feminine. To say that we need to protect you, like, it's unfortunate, but it's necessary for us to protect you. That's exactly what like a mom would say to a kid, a worried
Yeah.
mom would say to her kids. A man probably wouldn't immediately plunge the entire city into level 3 lockdown with one person. You would think there's not a gradient, there's no evolution, there's no, like staged tiered approach. Like, okay, one guy, I could understand doing like a level 0 lockdown, just saying like, hey, you got to wear masks, right? Or you got to 6 feet apart,
Socially
social distances.
distance.
Yeah, that's like a
Wash your hands.
yeah. There's one guy out there that has it, and all you have to do to not spread it is stay 6 feet away from that guy. But no, we don't trust you to do that. We need to protect you. So level 3 lockdown immediately, and because you can't protect yourself. So obviously,
Well, I think that they would justify it by saying, like, they don't know who this guy's had contact with since he got infected. So who knows potentially how many other people got infected just from this, like, one family. Because I think they said it was like a man and his family. So that's how they're going to justify it, because they say in their minds, it's like one can lead to 18 people, 18 COVID cases.
Yep.
So that's
Yeah.
how that's how they want to justify it, because they're trying to prevent more spread. But in doing that, they shut down their economy. People get depressed because they're not allowed to go outside. They're becoming alcoholics, committing suicide, beating their wives. Like, the grand scope of these lockdowns and what it does to us is like totally out of their scope. They just see that one case and they're just fixated on preventing one case from turning into 18 or 20 or 30 or thousands. And it's just, it's overkill. Definitely.
Well, it's exactly what you would expect to see with a purely emotional response, right? You overreact to it. You say, "Oh my God, it's COVID! Lock everything down." That's what the typical like feminine over emotional response would be, and that's what I think. That's what we're seeing is a very gendered
Athenian in
response.
chat says, says sounds like a narcissistic mother, like Norman Bates' mom.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
a little bit.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what I was trying to say. So yeah, the question, and Osis brings up a good point. He says, I had all these people touting New Zealand, and I said, what are they going to do if the vaccine takes 3 years? No one would answer the question. So there you go. I mean, it's still a valid question, because if that's how they're going to behave with every one single case level 3 lockdown, then are we just going to be locking down every other week for the next 3 years until everyone gets vaccinated?
We're gonna be locked down forever until we get herd immunity, Jeremy. That's the goal. That's the new goal.
Well, see, now herd immunity, they're just going to keep expanding the goalposts. You know that, right? Because once we get close to herd immunity, they're going to say, "Oh, guys, actually, there's a new variant out there, and your previous immunity doesn't help you on this one, so you have to wait for the next vaccine." So they're going to keep extending it out.
It's the updated flu shot, my friend. That's it. I mean, they just want to pump a new form of flu shot into us, and like brainwash us into believing that, oh, if you get the flu shot, you're protected from getting the flu. No, that's not how it works.
Dari brings up a good point in chat too. They said that Johnson and Johnson just well, he doesn't say that they just released it, but it did just get approved. So Johnson and Johnson, there's now a third vaccine in play. This is a single shot vaccine with 72% efficacy. One shot, and it doesn't need to be frozen in sub-zero temperature to transport. So maybe, like the quote unquote fake illusion of herd immunity with the vaccines is going to happen a little bit faster because of that. So it could be seen as good news, but it's still I was just doing some research on the methodology or the method of action behind that one, and it's still an RNA like spike-based vaccine. It's not like a dead version. It's not the dead version of the virus. It's still just all based on the spike proteins. So, yeah, it's not a. Tardo's asking about the vaccine. It's not an RNA mono. I forget what the terminology is, but it's not the same as the two that exist. But it's still similar in that it's all about the spikes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the nanolipid. It's not a nanolipid, whatever the hell that is. Not nanolipid one like the two that are already out. So just a public announcement for you guys.
We're not scientists up in here or anything, but we're just here to observe what the information that's been given in front of us, and just
I'll get it in 30 years.
I was going to say I'll get it in. I'll get it in. I'll get it in a few decades when it's been tried and true and been proven to not have very many adverse side effects. Like the polio vaccine. I'm totally okay with that. Totally okay with the tried and true vaccines that have been proven to work and not have as many adverse side effects. But this one has been rushed and not tested, and we don't know what the effects are going to be from this. So I'm just I'm not about the vaccine right now. No, thank you.
Well,
give it to somebody who actually wants it.
There was a calculator online that I found from 23andMe. If you pump in your date and your age and your how much you exercise and things like that, it gives you a percentage likelihood that you'll be hospitalized from COVID. And if you're 30 and you're under 600 pounds, you have like a 6% chance max of even being hospitalized, and then dying from that is probably like 0.01% chance. So I'm sure a 600-pound person obviously has more, because there's the calculator takes into risk factors like diabetes and stuff. But me, it said 1 to 5% chance I'd even be hospitalized. So I'm good. I have no reason to get the vaccine.
Don't worry, Athenian. I won't take the vaccine. No way, no how. And plus, I have you to keep me in check to make sure I don't do it.
I'll just take my vitamin D and get my pump on at the gym. And you guys should do the same too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what else you should do? Like the video. And if you want to listen to the podcast, you can check out the Alt Centrist podcast on all podcast platforms. That's what our podcast is called. We're not called the Weekly Narrative on the podcast platforms. We are the Alt Centrist. So you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and some other one that I don't use because I don't listen to podcasts. But find us here every Tuesday and Saturday, 7 p.m. PST on the live stream. You can also join on Stereo. If you want to download the app, you can join on the Stereo next time. And I don't know if we'll do Stereo on Tuesday or not. I think we're going to try to do Stereo with a third person and have Delaney in studio. We're going to work out the details. We'll figure it out. But I do like the Stereo. I like having people dropping voice clips in there.
Yeah,
And
that was cool. I like that.
It adds to the
discussion.
discussion.
It's good to hear people's voices.
I think people in chat liked it too. There was some positive comments about that. I mean, it was just one guy, but even he was, dropping some good comments. So I think we'll continue to experiment with the Stereo platform as long as it continues to work with us.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
Plus, I like being here at home because I don't have to get out of my pajamas. So this is pretty nice.
And you can look stuff up for us. So that's it for us, guys.
Yeah, and I can look stuff up for you on the fly.
You're the new Jamie.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, you know what?
Are we gonna Jeremy, are we doing a inner circle tonight?
Oh, that's right. I wanted to mention that. Since you're not here, we'll skip the inner circle today. We'll call the Stereo.
Okay.
Since the Stereo stuff was experimental, we'll and nobody from the stream I don't think joined the Stereo anyway. So we'll do an inner circle.
Except for Holly. Holly joined Stereo.
She did, yeah. We'll do the inner circle on next Saturday, and on Tuesday we'll have our normal stream 7 p.m. PST. So we hope to see you guys back on Tuesday. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I had fun. I hope you did too.
I enjoyed myself.
All right, guys. We'll see you Tuesday. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend, guys. Have a good night. Bye now.